This is your host, Carmen Radford, welcoming you back to another episode of the Calm and Chaos Podcast, the space where we discuss motherhood, well-being, and just balancing it all. We cover loads of topics here, so I hope you can find some connection. Okay, here we go. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Calm and Chaos. I have been listening to this audiobook, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. It's hours and hours long, and I cannot stop listening to it. It's so valuable. There's so much to think about, like every sentence, every paragraph. It's like food for thought. I literally am pausing and taking that in, relating it to my life, to my mental health. And it's so much about self-awareness, which then transcends into social awareness and your relationships and all these other factors in your life. And it's just that pause to realign yourself, recenter yourself, take that breath. Like in my yoga and mindfulness and meditation episode, we talked to Susie about JTM, just 2 minutes of taking that breath, or those 30 breaths, whatever it takes to be centered. And in this book, A New Earth, the author says that just one breath, taking that deep breath and focusing on it, gives us a chance to be self-aware. And especially in maybe a highly emotional moment, that can help us so much with reaction, with what we say, with how our energy feels inside and how our energy comes out. And now I've been listening to loads of podcasts all the time too. A lot of it is about mental health. And I just listened to Caitlin Bristow's Off the Vine latest episode, where she speaks with a therapist called millennial.therapist on Instagram. And it just reminded me about my own experience with anxiety and the reasons that I focus so much on not being overwhelmed by anxiety, and how it's so important, if you're someone who deals with anxiety, that it is a daily practice. And we get anxiety for all sorts of reasons. For me, I would say it's a trauma response from my childhood, what I went through. And had I had these resources that are available now, I really think they would have been so incredibly helpful. The awareness about anxiety and self-reflection and self-regulation and connection and where to seek help and how to share, and all these things that, when you list them factually, they seem so clear now. But back then, 20, even 30 years ago, not having quick access to that, it meant a lot of things were swept under the rug and they were really uncomfortable. And even people you would go to confide in or to seek help from, they might not have known how to access the resources that someone would need. And so on my mind, I think because I've been listening to so many related podcasts about these kind of topics, there are two things in my life that stick out, two moments that showed me what anxiety did to my self, to my chemistry. And it's interesting because, I
I don't know about you, but sorry, I've got a croaky voice. When I talk to friends close to my age, a lot of us don't have a lot of memories. And maybe it's because we're so busy and we don't tap into them all that much. And maybe it takes a moment, like, sort of a trigger to like take you back to the memories. But for me, through some therapy that I did, when I finally found a therapist that I was comfortable with, I learned that suppression of memories is a trauma response because you're in survival mode. And so you're only thinking about surviving in that moment and you're not writing memories. But there are still little ones that are so poignant, I guess. And they're not the worst ones, but they're obviously ones that just have stuck with me for some reason. So I'm not going to get into all the trauma and everything right now. I have shared about it publicly and I will again, I'm sure. But the basic details are my parents were not happy in their relationship, eventually went through a divorce. It was really awful, very trauma filled. And I experienced a lot of emotional abuse for years. But I didn't know at the time what this was all doing to me. And it really was not an easy time to share with anyone. And when a strong person in your life, for me, it was my dad, it was a like threat and scare technique of me not sharing with anyone. And it's, as a parent now, I just can't even fathom a parent, suppressing a child that way. But I remember in high school, I was on a bus with a few friends and we were going downtown. And I'm very like intrinsically like minded, but I can be very extroverted. And I feel that like my personality had been pushed down and pushed down and pushed down by the trauma that was happening at home. So I was over time gradually becoming less and less of my personality. And anyway, so I'm on this bus and I see an old man get on. Oh, this makes me emotional even thinking about it. An old man got on and it was a busy bus and my friends and I had seats. And in my mind, I was thinking, I'm the first person. I'm always the first person. I'm always the first person to try and do the right thing. And my mind was going, get up and ask this elderly person if they want to sit down. And my body did not do it. I was so plagued with anxiety at this time that even my internal voice was so affected. Even my reactions were so affected and dampened. And then I quickly heard a friend of mine do exactly that. She got up, she asked this man if they wanted the seat. And that was just one moment where I felt so much crumbling inside of me. And I was so young, 14, 15. And this was already after years and years of not getting the proper help that I would have needed to maintain my self-awareness and my connections and my relationships and all the things that you need to feel okay in yourself as a human being. And then there was just this other little moment, and a bunch of us were at a friend's house that I'd been going to for like over a decade, and it was a very comfortable place. And one of our friends came up to me and said, "Why are you so timid?" And I didn't have the tools to understand what I was going through fully, but I'd never been called timid before. And not that it's a bad thing at all. It just wasn't one of my traits. growing up. And I think because I was always more socially aware than self-aware, I was that kid. Like I look back in my old, write-ups from school and report cards, and I'm even in touch with teachers still that taught me in elementary school. And they were like, you were the one who would, bring kids in. You were very inclusive and you were really kind to everyone, and we could rely on you to be helping in the class. And so these were just such new feelings in my body. And this continued for a long time. And then, anyway, I want to go into just another thing that stuck out. This was a few years after that, and I was in university. The first time I went into a local college, and things were still really bad at home, but I was sitting in a class, I think it was for marketing, and we had done a group project, and there was maybe 6 or 7 other students in my group, and there was one student who was like not there very often, didn't come to our group meetings and that. But when they were there, they were very friendly, pleasant, and we didn't know each other well. And, at that point, you kind of think that the teacher is overseeing things. But it got to our day where we had to present, and we all went up to the front of the class and presented. And at the end, the teacher had us stay standing at the front of the classroom and started to ask questions about this student who in our group who hadn't shown up to this class and who hadn't contributed. And this teacher just kept on asking questions about why do you think this is, and what grade should this person get, and just really inappropriate questions to ask in front of a whole class, and without this student there behind their back, when you have no idea what's going on in someone's life. You have no idea if there's something wrong. And after a few questions, I was so stunned, but I went and sat down in my chair. And at this time, I was still very, like I said, I was just very dampened by the home situation. And I've gone through therapy since then, and I'm just incredibly proud of myself, of where I've gotten to today. And this feels like a different lifetime, but I think it's so important to share. So I went and sat in my chair, in my desk that happened to be behind the teacher, because I was not willing to participate in talking about someone behind their back. And what if there was something really sad going on? So this teacher continued asking questions and eventually said that the students could sit down. And then the teacher turned around to me in front of everyone and yelled at me for sitting down when she was talking, and just berated me. And I sat calmly, and when she was done, I said, I'm not comfortable talking about someone behind their back. It's unfair. And after that class, we left, and I was walking towards where my ride was, and a number of students came over and said, that was so great that you stood up for this student, and I can't believe you stood up for them and did it by yourself and all these things. And I remember not feeling even I didn't care that they were like, oh, good job and everything. And I just thought, I was the only one doing this. And it made me feel so sad. But I also think I got a little bit of myself back and realized, okay, your life can be crumbling, but you have that strength in you, or the courage or the resilience. There's something in you. You can keep going. Someday things will change. Someday you'll be able to get out of this, because there is change to be made in the world, and I want to be part of that. And even if happiness isn't coming to me, it will someday. If I keep going, if I keep putting out the good energy. And lately, coming back to the present time, I hear so much about energy, and I think I'm really starting to understand it now. Because you can feel the bad energy sometimes when you walk into a room, or when someone comes into your, space, and you can feel the good energy in situations too. You can feel the good energy from the kind people that you surround yourself with. And then it comes back to that breath, doesn't it? To be self-aware enough, to be aware enough of your surroundings, to be centered, to pick up on that energy, and similarly to be sending that energy out into the world. I said to a friend that the right decision is usually not the easiest. Sitting there and doing nothing would have been easier. Or standing up and listening to all this and being a quiet participant would have been easier. But is it? Because you're the one who has to go back and live with those decisions that you made. And I just think I wanted to share this because little moments stick out, and little moments can change the trajectory of your life. And those bits you have that energy that's gonna stay inside you as well when you're living through these moments. And so this is why now when I feel, you're the overwhelmed, overstimulated mom, you're trying to be the wife and you're trying to be the friend. And like for me, keeping in touch with family and friends back home is so hard because there's an 8-hour time difference. And by the time they're up and maybe are able to talk to me, I'm so tired by the end of the night. And then I have to make those decisions. Like, I'm desperate to talk to them. I'm also shattered. And I'm the one who's going to have to get up in the morning, shattered, and do, my best as a mom. And sometimes the energy that I get from talking, actually all the time, because I love these people so much back home. The energy they give me in those late nights, sometimes that makes up for the few hours of sleep that I might miss. And that's worth it, of course. But I think it all comes back to those, get your sleep, find the things, the activities, and the sources of good energy. And hopefully that all in turn makes the energy around you so bright. So I'm keep sharing the podcast episodes that I'm listening to because I really hope they help everyone as much as they help me. They're all helping me stay centered and to remember in those moments of overstimulation and overwhelm to take that breath, realign myself, look around, take that breath for that social awareness, and be present and be myself, connect my heart to my children and everyone else, and hope that bit by bit we can all do this. Okay, that was actually a lot longer than I meant this to be, but I'm just feeling really reflective. It's probably because I'm painting my house right now and I'm listening to a lot of podcasts and this book. But that's what it's meant to do, isn't it? Share those good things and hope that we can all, just put out that good energy. I'd love to hear what you do to recenter yourself, what activities make you feel vibrant and calm, and please share because this is how we're helping each other, isn't it?